Cheers.
All right, you're live.
All right, episode 36 of Terry and Gary's Low Expectations podcast.
I'm just gonna drink my coffee like this.
I'll just squeeze my squeezy.
It's how many episodes?
36.
36
official episodes that we've uploaded to YouTube and iTunes and everything. The ones we actually had guests for. We don't count the ones where me and you just shot the shit, you know.
Okay. Watch that language, all right?
36.
36. Yeah.
And we'll have a pretty special guest on today. He's running a few minutes behind, so we're gonna get started and talk about all things Rhino. Go ahead, Rhino, take it away.
Well, don't you want to share it? I thought you were sharing it.
Sharing I'll share it. You go ahead and take us in.
Right. Well, on January 30th, I'm going to be dropping the puck at the Red Wings alum charity event, which I'm pretty excited for. I get to talk to Gary every day, which I'm also excited for. He did pay me to say that.
$2. I mean,
right. Hey, a dollar saved is a dollar earned, right? In this case, it's $2. Yeah. Unlike his wife, is not happy to talk to Gary every single day. But
she hides.
Right. Before we came on, I was telling him I'm gonna do the podcast like this.
I think it looks a lot better. I mean, right. I really should consider it.
Hey, I look better from afar. You know, it's like that car. You know, it's like
better with my eyes closed.
Car. What's that?
You look better with my eyes closed.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean? So what are some of the things? What are some questions you have for Raven?
Look, before that, let's talk about our plans for the IWR.
Okay.
We hopefully we can get something going this summer at the Big Daddy's Boatyard.
Yeah, actually, last year was a success. We only did 100 tickets. We could have done more, as far as sticking with the guidelines, but we just did 100 VIPs.
Right.
Well, we added a few after that because a lot of people were wanting. Yeah, it was really good. Everybody enjoyed themselves. We're actually thinking about doing one right before Labor Day or Memorial Day in May. So, but this one we're going to do more tickets. Hopefully, everything. We'll follow the guidelines, but hopefully, we'll be able to, sell different price tickets. Before it was just VIP. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. Yeah. I miss it.
Yeah, probably the Thursday before Labor or Memorial Day. I always get everything mixed up. Memorial Day, Labor Day, May, Memorial Day.
This thing Eminem.
Right. The rapper, is he going to be there?
Okay.
Oh. No, he's not going to be there.
On sale now.
Yeah, well, if he likes wrestling, he's more than welcome. He's invited, but no, we have no intentions on booking him because we can't afford him.
Right. Hey, Hassan Bazi says, "What's up, Terry?"
Hey, what's up, Hassan? So, yeah, he's always in the shows. A big supporter of the charity wrestling shows we do, whether it's in Dearborn Heights, Allen Park, Dearborn, yeah. So Monroe.
Now, how far back do you go with Raven?
Oh, geez. I think 99. Yeah, pretty far back. And then we started. I know when he came back to ECW, he was tagging with Dreamer, and he had some. I mean, it was guys like him and Sandman, Sabu, Taz, Dreamer. That made ECW.
Definitely, I'd like to talk to him a little bit about that feud with Sandman. I mean, people say it was just one of the most emotional feuds of all time, and
it was Dreamer. Yeah. I want to ask him. It was in Kansas City, Kansas. Actually, it was on the Missouri side. Maybe it was in Kansas. Him and Paul were arguing about something in the back. Like you heard it down the hallway in the other lockers. Like, what were you arguing about? But him and Paul had that type of relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that Paul kind of brought him in, and he tried to go to Cornette first, and then
Oh, I don't know. Yeah,
Cornette kind of turned him down, and then Paul brought him in.
yeah, you'd have to ask him about that. We
Well, as
would,
soon as he gets here, we will.
right. It's funny because let's see if he tells us he's the genius or if I got to bring it out of him.
Well, he's Menza, yeah,
Yeah, he's really high up there
like
too.
150 IQ or something. That's like both of ours.
It's funny because he goes, yeah, but we'll have to. We actually had a lot of great conversations because after the last year in Impact, we were both there. We'd go and eat at the ale house, and we would just talk about everything other than wrestling. And it's just a really great conversation all around. So,
Well, we'll look forward to it. So next week we have Ann Mahoney from The Walking Dead. So you got your questions ready for Ann?
Very excited. I've got all my questions. Like, what's Daryl like? I bet you she gets that.
What's Daryl like? What's Rick like? What's the rest of them like?
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to share it, brother. Did you share this already on Facebook?
I shared it on my page, and I shared it over to the PopFest page.
I'm drinking coffee. There it is. We got it. So
this is a highly entertaining episode so far. 36 is going good.
Okay, so what are well, we'd like to run some IWR wrestling shows before the May show at the Boatyard. So hopefully if things open up, maybe in April, we'd like to run over at the FOP again. So that's definitely we'll post all the stuff.
Scott, get on that.
Tell Scott
Scott to get on that right now. Hey, Hassan wants to know what your thoughts on the AEW Impact partnership kind of thing is. What do you think about it?
Oh, I met Tony Khan. That's actually a really good question. I met Tony Khan. What a stand-up guy. He's the owner of AEW and just really cares, about the talent. And before I had a chance to go up and say hi to him, just in passing, he stopped and he knew who everybody was, and he's like, hey, Tony, and I'm like, oh, Terry Rhino, my wrestling. He goes, I know, and I thanked him for doing what he did with the Brody Lee show, and then what they continue to do with the family and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's such an emotional storyline. It's really nice.
Well, yeah, the story they're doing with the kid, with Brody, little Brody. Yeah, and then but as far as actually carrying it outside, and let's not forget other wrestling promotions do that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're handcuffed on, I don't want to say sponsorships, but sometimes they're handcuffed on how much time they give to certain things, because if they don't show equal time, then it might come back to bite them in the butt. But AEW is in a great position too, where they can put all that time and and just with the family. So, but
it's
outside
a good thing.
of the wrestling.
Yeah. Do you like the partnership so far? I mean, do you?
I don't know if it's a partnership. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what's going on.
I don't think anybody really does.
I mean, what's going on is good. So I don't. Yeah, I don't. It's great TV. I think it works great for Impact and Access, the network we're on. Like everything in Impact. The locker room is great. The management is great. The access is great.
Yeah.
It's everything. The management there is great, and they're very they're very good to all of us. So it's a great
watching the Good Brothers come over and jump in the AEW ring and beat the heck out of somebody. And
as long as they're not beating the heck out of me. I had problems with Eric Young and Dorian, but but we'll see. But no, and that's another thing. Like, a lot of people will bury a wrestling promotion. I've never had any issues with any wrestling promotion I've worked for. I've been very blessed. Like when I was with WWE, the first time and the last time, I mean, nothing but great things from Triple H to Stephanie to Shane to Vince, everybody. It was, I mean, and it's funny because people thought that, Vince tries to bury certain wrestlers. Like one time I was Mrs. Claus in a Halloween costume match, and Slater was Santa Claus, and he wanted to be Mrs. Claus, and we argued about it. It was a short argument because I grabbed his hand and I go, "Listen, I'm Mrs. Claus." But a lot of fans thought that Vince wanted to do that because he was trying to bury any and all ECW original talent, which was not even the case. So he didn't even recommend, what we dressed up as. We're told we could dress up whatever we want, as long as it's appropriate. So
you got to dress any way you wanted, and you still dressed the way you did.
Yeah.
Hey, for those guys that just tuned in, Raven's running a little bit behind. We're just gonna chop it up here together and answer some questions until he gets on. But stay tuned; he's coming.
Right. So go ahead, Gary. What other questions?
Gary's sending him another link right now. So.
Oh, okay. Technology is great. So, but yeah, we all have a Raven impression too. So a lot of us, it's okay. I won't do that on the air.
Listen, he just said, email me the link. I said, what's email? He said, email is a way to communicate through the internet, but that's really not that important right now.
Is that what internet's all about?
Now we know. See, this is also an informational and an educational program.
Right, right. He'll educate you.
He just did.
He's a genius.
I'm kind of scared now.
Right. He's a genius.
I'll wait till he gets on. We'll show him. Show him how smart he was for coming on this show.
Right. We should just mess with him, rib him. Just not like ask him any questions. Like just be like, hey.
Just like, hey, remember that time you wrestled in ECW? That's cool.
That was real cool.
That's
Dude.
Real cool.
I dare you.
Oh, I'm not afraid.
Yeah, that's real cool. We should get him up here to run a seminar and stuff.
Like what kind of seminar? Like
it's like a wrestling seminar,
okay.
Q&A and all that stuff. Yeah, because I mean, there's the ECW fan base is still there.
We can have them run facets, what the different facets of the internet is and how to.
Now you're just being a jerk. You're going to run off all the guests.
What guests?
Yeah,
we
really.
got guests. We got guests coming.
Right. Usually I'm the one that's running late.
We will see. But yeah, he's got the link. We should be hopefully Dave will find him here pretty soon somewhere in the interwebs and drag him into our show. Kicking and screaming.
What email?
I thought that was. I was laughing. I had to say what it was just because it was so funny. Email is the way to communicate through the internet, but that's not really that important right now.
That's what he messaged you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Oh.
So how was Ford's today?
That was great. Loved it. Yeah.
Ford
every
Motor
day.
Company.
Ford Motor Company.
You got how many more years until you retire?
Until I die.
Raven, what's going on, brother?
There he is. Hope he's connected to audio.
I'm connected.
There he is. Raven, thank you for coming on.
How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Thanks for explaining the internet to Gary. That totally.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm not the tech guy.
I was like, why? He doesn't know what the email is?
Well, let's introduce them. Episode 36, Terry and Gary's Low Expectations podcast. One of the most decorated wrestlers in the history of pro wrestling, with 3 major banners, going 48 different title reigns, 27 as the hardcore champion.
39. It was actually 39.
Oh, 39. See? This man's smart.
Yeah. I apologize for Gary.
That's okay. What's your shirt say? What's your shirt say, Rhino?
This is my gimmick shirt.
Ah, so that's your gimmick shirt then?
No, it's a free shirt.
Oh.
You know how free shirts are passed around in the locker room. I grab every single one of them, even if they don't fit. It's a good Christmas present.
That one don't look like it fits either.
What's that?
That one don't look
It's
like
a
it
little
fits
tight on the
either.
sleeve.
What's
So,
that, a
hey,
6XL?
There it is, brother. Hey, Gary's got some questions for you as far as wrestling and stuff like that in ECW.
Well, what do you do?
I'm the pretty face.
Wow.
He's usually the one that comes up with all the questions. I was like, do you remember that time you wrestled at ECW?
I think I remember that.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I refused to let Rhino give me a pile driver off the apron onto a table.
Well, you know what? I don't blame you. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't take. I was like, his giant legs will squish my head like a pimple.
Well, I hope you gave it to him a lot when you were wrestling together. Terry deserves it.
Hit me with a DDT quite a bit. So
The Raven effect.
yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
the Raven effect.
Yeah. So go ahead, Gary. What are the questions that you had?
Well, we want to talk about, for sure. I mean, one of the most emotional storylines in the history of wrestling, everybody says, is the storyline between you and Sandman. Can you
I don't want to talk about that.
Okay. Next question. Is it true you trained the Big Show?
No, I did not train the Big Show.
Okay.
All right.
I told him to go to Larry Sharp's Monster Factory is what I did.
Now, how did you meet Big Show? Did you just
that bar in Chicago, to Stay Out, that's open all night?
Okay.
I was there, and I think that's where it was. I was there, and I hooked up with some girl, and then some giant guy came up to me and and then his manager came up to me. He had a manager before he ever wrestled.
Oh, okay.
And so they wanted me to train him or something, I think, and it's a long time ago. And
Yeah.
I was like, no, I was like, just go to the Monster Factory, you know?
Okay. So
I think that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah. So no one sent them to you. So okay. Yeah, you just met them in a bar.
Yeah.
So that's how I always meet my giants, in a bar.
Yeah. That's why I met the San Francisco Giants in a bar.
Right. So go ahead, Gary.
All right. Another question. Is it true that you scared Kurt Angle from entering ECW?
More or less.
Yeah. And why is that?
Because I built the crucifix to crucify the Sandman, and he had never seen pro wrestling before, and he was mortified, being a good Christian, that he was dead. But there was nothing to be mortified about. All he saw was some guy getting crucified, and he freaked out. But really, I was using it as an iconographic concept. You know, it's like I was trying to portray Sandman as having to feel my pain, you know, put him on a cross to feel like what I feel like. I wasn't making fun of religion in any way, shape, or form, although most religions are ridiculous. But I mean, that's a whole different subject.
Right, right.
You know, but I wasn't making fun of religion. But to him, it's like somebody's, you know, that we're just laughing at religion, you know, and it bothered him.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about it, and I know a lot of people were upset about it, but I know that was never your intent. And it's funny, 'cause a year later they did it on WWE, right?
Of course they did.
So I think it was the design of the cross that got everybody in an uproar. See,
it was very well built. It was very well built. Sandman built it for himself.
Right.
But yeah, build your crosses.
Right. That's all we needed to do. So, but
well, anyway. Here's the thing. I mean, let's face it. Religion. Does this make more? What makes more sense? That God, that whatever was supposed to be God, that came down and talked to Abraham. And then he said, "All right, the Jews. You're my people. You're my peeps." And he goes, and you guys are gonna kick everybody else's asses. And now, does that sound like a loving God to you? You know, somebody who, you know, cares about everybody? No, it sounds like an alien came down and acted like, because, you know, aliens would be godlike to anybody, you know.
Right.
And even now they would be, because their technology would be so advanced. Because it's like Arthur C. Clarke said, any technology so advanced, it's super advanced, will seem like magic to anybody. or something.
Right, right.
That's paraphrased, but
Now,
so
yeah,
doesn't that make more sense that that an alien came down and tried to convert a bunch of peeps to his in his thrall and
what we
I'm
what
not
we
gonna
need to
argue with you.
do is we need to save this. We do an alien podcast too. We can have you come on that.
well, you do a podcast about people from Mexico.
Oh,
Oh, not
no, I'm
illegal
just kidding.
alien. Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, right. No, I'm kidding. No, but I watch Ancient Aliens on History Channel. Do you ever watch that episode or that show? Yeah,
Yeah,
and I can understand how, like, the my question is a lot of the drawings on the caves and all that stuff, or in text or whatever. What if it's humans from the future time
could
travel?
be. Could be.
That's my question.
Here's the thing, though. But if there was time travel, then
It's already
what? I mean, it could be time travel. I mean, I don't know why it couldn't be, but I feel like it's probably more aliens than. I mean, let's face it. The Pentagon's even come out and said that there's UFOs that they're legit.
right.
I mean, for all the people who shit on alien conspiracy theorists, they can suck my dick now because the Pentagon backed it.
Right, right. Well, no, what about that mailbox out in I think it's Nevada or something? They say it's an alien mailbox. It's in the middle of nowhere. Did you
I
ever
don't
see
know.
that?
No, but do you ever watch did you ever watch what's it called again? Skinwalker Ranch, or read anything about that?
No, I'm afraid to.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy. It's pretty creepy.
Really?
Yeah.
Gary, do you ever watch anything like that?
I don't watch TV.
Oh, you don't
What?
watch?
What are you, a snob?
He's an alien. Who doesn't watch?
I can't
TV?
figure out how to work it.
Why don't you watch TV? What's wrong with you?
I can't figure out how to work it.
Well, you don't need to work it. It's a shoot.
Right, right. Actually, you know what's funny? I was listening to Jim Cornette's podcast, and he was over there. This is back in the '90s when he was writing TV. He was at Vince's house, and they called the TV repairman because he hit mute on the remote and didn't know what the mute button was. So the guy came out and he's like, "Oh yeah," pointing him over there. "Hey pal," and he comes back like 30 seconds later. He goes, "The mute button was just on, and this is what you got to do." He's like, "Oh, okay, thanks, pal." Reaches in his pocket, gives him $100.
Nice.
Yeah, right. So, but anyways, speaking about don't know how to work TVs.
We got a question from Carl Grove. He wants to know how you went from Johnny Polo to Raven.
I just skipped a few steps.
You evolved, huh?
I evolved. I realized that the chicken shit heels weren't. I didn't want to be Johnny Polo anyway. That was their idea, so I didn't want to do that anyhow. Not that I'm not proud of what I did, because I think I made him a pretty funny character. And let's face it, who doesn't need snorkels and fins in their life? Because
Right.
Johnny Polo wore snorkels and the fin one time.
Right.
Yeah, I know. It was just, and then it's so like, in DDP, I was talking to him one day, and he's like, it's like, you ought to go alternative, because that's who you are anyway. And besides, nobody's buying chicken shit heels. I was like, yeah, you're right. Because I like being a chicken shit heel because it was fun, and nobody did it then. But also nobody was hiring then somebody like that. So I said, I'll have to be a tough guy then. Yeah. And, I'm an ex-Marine, so I'm tough enough,
When did you, a lot of cold showers in the Marines, man. So.
Oh, yeah.
I remember.
Go to bed with soap on you.
Yeah.
They kick you out of the shower. They go, that's it, out of the shower, you're done. Because I was the leader of the platoon, I had to go. I had to do everything last, and had to be the first one done on everything.
Yeah. Now
eating, I had to be the last one to eat and the first one finished.
Yeah. What did you no, that was what, 93, 94 you changed?
83 I went to the oh, you mean when I went to the Marine Corps? It was 83.
Okay. No, when you changed
84, it was 84.
Okay. Now when you changed to you're from Johnny Polo to Raven, how'd you come up with the name Raven? And was it just right in ECW when you started there, or did you do it on some other shows prior?
No, I did. I created it in my head, and then I decided I thought I was going to get to go work in Smoky Mountain, because Cornette had said that he would hire me after I quit as Johnny Polo, and then and he kept pushing it back a month. And in the meantime, I saw an episode of ECW, and I was like, I got to be on this show. So I called DDP up and told him to call Paulie and call in a favor and get me on the show. But I had already created the Raven character. I just needed a forum to use it. And
Yeah.
the way I came up with it was, I was thinking, I just needed some inspiration. So I'm like, well, let's see if who would be somebody that I would think of that would be similar to this character. And I was like, well, let's see. I saw the movie The Crow. What was the guy's name? Eric Draven. Raven. Yep. Quote the Raven nevermore. And that was it. It came to me that fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you went there, and then right away, it was like you were involved in like some major stuff. And then you were there, what, 5 years before you went to WCW, or 4 years?
Two or something.
Two? Okay.
Yeah, it was only like 95, 90, 95. It might have been longer than two, but it was like two-ish.
Okay. Now, what was your experience in? Because I remember when you went and you developed the flock. Whose idea was that in WCW? Or
well, we had the nest in ECW. And then Terry Taylor decided I could use a flock in WCW, so that was cool.
Right. Now, whose idea was it? Like you guys coming down the steps and sitting by ringside?
Terry Taylor's, as far as I know.
Yeah. No, because I remember watching that, and just on TV, the visual, it just looked.
And you were like, man, these guys got good seats.
I told you it was funny, Gary.
Yeah, you did.
I'm like, wow, every Monday they get good seats. They must be rich spending all that money on those seats.
They sure don't dress the part, though. They sure don't look like they're rich.
Right. Right. So now you lived in Philly for a while, right? Because didn't you live downtown off of South Street or something like that?
Yeah, I moved to Philadelphia when I quit working WWF as Johnny Polo. I moved to Philadelphia because that's kind of the hub of indie wrestling. You know, it's like everything is off. You know, whether it's in New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Boston. It's very centrally located. So, and plus I'm from Philadelphia, so I like moving back there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you were originally from Philadelphia. What took you out to
Portland? That's okay. So I was born in Philadelphia. I lived there till I was like 9 or 10. Then we moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for a year. We got ripped off because my dad was like, we can either move to Milwaukee, Wisconsin or Hawaii. And we're like, Hawaii. He's like, no, I'm taking a job in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Like, oh, you bastard.
Why even ask?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was up for debate for a little while before I'm sure he financially, whatever, they paid him more or something. I don't know.
Right.
So I moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for a year. Then we moved to Florida, and then from Florida I went to the University of Delaware because I wanted to go back up north to school. And Delaware is a great school. 5 stars academic and 5 stars partying. So you got to love that. So I went there to Delaware, and then I went to the Monster Factory in New Jersey to wrestle, right over the bridge from Philadelphia. Then I started wrestling in Memphis, went to Memphis. Then from Memphis, I moved to Tampa for Florida Championship Wrestling. Then I moved to I moved to Vancouver, Canada for Vancouver Al Tomko Wrestling. And then I moved to Portland for Portland Wrestling and lived there for 2 years. And that's where I learned how to work and how to really be a worker. Because you're working every night. You work 6-7 nights a week, literally, not just people say, I work 6-7 nights. No, we really work 6-7 nights a week, Rarely did we work less than 6. And you're going 15 minutes every night. And you got a couple hundred people, and you have to learn how to, in the same crowd, in your same towns every week. On 3 nights a week, you're in the same towns every single week. They were regular towns, so you had to learn how to really work the people. You know what I mean? And so I was in Portland for 2 years, and then from there I moved to Atlanta, and then because it was where WCW was. And after I left Portland, I wanted to, try to get to WCW because I was still a small guy. I was still only 220, which was tiny back then.
Right.
Now I would have been one of the bigger guys, but back then I was a tiny guy, and so I knew I couldn't get in WWE because I was too small. So I went to Atlanta, got hooked up with Global Championship Wrestling. Was one of like 3 people that got a contract, for that thing for as short as it lasted. then after Global, I went to I got hired by WCW. Page did me a favor. He helped me get a tryout there. Page helped me a lot in a lot of key spots in my career.
Yeah.
He helped me get a tryout there, and yeah, he's been a good friend. He helped me get a tryout there, and then I got over, so they hired me, and I was there for. Then Dusty had big plans for me. Dusty had told me when I came in, but then Watts came in and took over, and Watts didn't like me because I was too small, and and so he gave me the boot. And so I went back to Memphis, which is where, back to Tennessee where I started. It's like the Hotel California. You can check out, but you can't ever leave.
Right. Now, who was running Memphis at that time?
Lawler and Jarrett.
Okay.
Yeah, they had always ran it.
Okay, I didn't know.
Well, you should know. So there.
Right. Well, I was thinking Nashville. That's what I was thinking. Who ran Nashville back then?
Oh, Jarrett and Lawler is the same territory.
Oh, okay, I thought there was someone else that really the payouts were real light.
No, I mean, not when it was a territory. I mean, the payouts may have been real light anyway. I don't know. I was an underneath guy there at first, and then when I was on top, when I came back and I was on top, the payoffs weren't great, but the business wasn't great, so you get paid on the house,
Right.
So so when it was a territory, Jarrett and Lawler ran it. Jarrett owned it and Lawler owned a piece of it, or a piece of Memphis, I guess. Right. Anyway, so I went back to Memphis. So I went from Delaware in college. Then I went home for the summer to bounce. Then I went in West Palm Beach, where we lived in Florida. Then I went to South Jersey for the Monster Factory. Then I moved to Memphis, Nashville area to wrestle. Then I moved to Tampa. Then I moved to Vancouver. Then I moved to Portland. Then I moved to Atlanta. Then I moved back to Memphis and Nashville. And then from there, WWE hired me, but I was still too small, so they wanted me as a manager. And they put me in management. So I was in management. And, as in management, you got a lot of deals, and so forth, being a manager. Actually, Adam Baum thought I was supposed to, he was mad when they had me manage him, that he's like, why aren't you doing my travel for me? I'm like, I'm not doing your travel. He's like, you're my manager. I'm like, it's a work, you dummy.
Right.
He's like, Paul Ellering, because Paul Ellering does it for the Road Warriors. I go, yeah, and he's getting paid for it by the Road Warriors. You want to pay me to do it, I'll do it.
Now you were writing some of the shows there, weren't you?
I was writing the second run shows. Yeah, Vince really liked my work ethic and my he liked me because I was clever and creative.
Yeah.
And so they made me an associate producer of Monday Night Raw, and I also wrote the second run shows, All America and Mania, and I was being groomed to be in the booking committee. But I didn't, and then and I was also managing, but eventually they had me stop managing and just put me behind the scenes, and that's when I quit because I didn't want to just be a behind the scenes guy,
Right.
So I left WWE, and then I moved to Philly to start doing indies and developed the Raven character, and then I went to ECW, then I went to WCW, went back to WWE. So I worked for WCW twice, WWE twice, ECW twice, went back to them. I can't keep a job, basically.
Well, you worked with Impact for.
Oh yeah, and then I worked for TNA twice.
Yeah. So now I was telling Gary before you came on the show, how we used to eat my last year there. We used to go out and eat at the ale house, and we
became addicted to their Captain Jack's dessert.
Oh yes, thank you. I remember the name now. I couldn't remember the name, but we'd go there and we'd eat, and we'd just talk about everything except wrestling. Yeah,
and we'd eat like this dessert was so good, we'd eat like 2 or 3 of them.
We'd walk out of there with such a sugar high. We'd just shaking, sugar running through our veins. But yeah, we would sit there for at least a couple hours and just talk about anything and everything.
Yeah.
But as far as Raven is a genius, let's talk about that. When was the last time?
Yeah, right. I gave Rhino a genius quiz.
Right.
Did he pass?
They said that they said no vacancies.
Right. Now explain to, like, because originally what I thought with it, the test is they ask you a bunch of questions like who was president and who was elected president in 1932.
No. See, that's knowledge. That's knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you explain to people the difference between the test
for intelligence tests? It's see, if you ask somebody about knowledge, that's all based on where they grew up and who they know and what they were taught. But intelligence is based on stuff like, if you have, like, say you have a pattern, you have a circle and a square and a triangle, and then you have a circle, a square, and then what's the next one? Well, it's a triangle because it's a pattern. That's the kind of stuff that's on in IQ tests, intelligence tests, because that's innate. That's, you either can figure that out or you can't. That has nothing to do with cultural biases or knowledge. I'm very knowledgeable about TVs. Like, if about, not TVs, but TV programming, back in the day. So like, if you would ask me who was on a certain show, I could have told you, but that's not any clue to my intelligence, though. That just shows I know a lot of stupid shit.
You and I both.
Right.
Yeah, because see, I didn't know that, and then Raven explained it to me. He's like, and then he would draw like some tests out on a napkin and, okay, solve this, and then I'd solve it, and he's like, okay, we'll do a harder one. I'm like, all right, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. So,
and it turned out Rhino is a borderline genius with psychopathic tendencies.
There you go. Well, thank you for exposing me, but that's okay.
Yeah,
all the women in my life know I'm a psychopath, even Gary, but he's not a woman in my life.
Wait a second, yeah.
Does that mean he's not in your life, or he's not a woman, or is he neither?
Not a woman yet. So, so he goes to see the doctor.
He does have the boobs for it.
He does. We like to call him pecs.
Hey, right. So the Monroe Pop Fest, is that a fest with just dads, or is it a fest for sodas, or is it a fest for what?
It is a comic book and pop culture convention.
Yeah.
Pop culture.
Yeah, the Comic-Con was trademarked, and he has to pay a lot of money for it. So
yeah, I decided to not do that.
Right.
Yeah, that wouldn't be worth your money.
Right.
No. Hey, so now going back to the Raven, where you got your your idea from the Crow, which James.
Well, I didn't get my idea from the Crow. I got the name. I already created the character. This dark, tortured soul, poetic loner, like a cross between Jim Morrison and Robert Plant and something, and like somebody from the late 90s, like that whole era of disenchanted, disenfranchised youth. Well, and but the only reason I had anything to do with the Crow whatsoever was that his name of the character was Eric Draven, and I just made Draven, made me think of Raven, which made me think of Quote the Raven Nevermore, and so that was it. But the Crow wasn't the character. The Crow was Sting, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, basically. Well, see, I get all my information from the internet, and the internet's not wrong; it doesn't lie. So I also heard that your character came from a cross between Edgar Allan Poe and Bodhi from that 90s movie, the Patrick Swayze character.
No, not at all.
Lied to me again.
The Edgar Allan Poe references, because that's what the poem Quote the Raven. So that's where Quote the Raven Nevermore is a poem by Edgar Allan Poe. So that's where the reference came in, but it wasn't based on him. And when Paige said I should go alternative, I mean, I was already wearing a leather jacket. I grew my hair out. My hair was already grown out. I wore Doc Martens. I already was the character. I just didn't realize it, in my inner tortured soul, I just brought out from the inside. But in his reference, he suggested that he said, look at the Red Hot Chili Peppers in the movie Point Break. So it wasn't Bodie, it was the Chili Peppers, because they were a bunch of tattooed long hairs. And that's what I was anyway, because I was a tattooed long hair. So he said, use that for inspiration.
Those damn long hairs.
Yeah.
So in my hair. So, but now I thought your soul wasn't tortured until you met me. See, my mistake.
Like all.
No, can I read? Am I allowed to read my email and check my while I'm being interviewed?
That'd probably be the most entertaining part of the show for for you.
What's email?
Email. That's not important right now.
Yeah,
right.
No, just what he said.
Now let's you know, a lot of people bring up the match that you and I had at Backlash.
That was the greatest hardcore match in the history of wrestling, I think.
I think, yeah, because you had the wrestling, it broke down and you know, into the hardcore stuff, and it was everything just made sense, tied off.
It was clever, it was creative. There was so much stuff that was so unique in it. Like when you ran up the staircase and jumped with the flying clothesline on me.
Yeah.
And then
the shopping cart.
Then the shot, and then from there, like then you lifted the stairs over your head, which is like impossible because it's so awkward and heavy. But and then the way I fed you to take the bump off it, like where you're on the outside holding it like you're gonna throw it in, and I run over like to block it, and I stick my head through the second and third rope, and you conk me in the head with it. You know, just clever stuff like that. So then I go flying back in, and you throw it in. And then I set it up in the corner, and then you go to charge me, or you set it up. I forgot who set it up, and then you missed and dove into the shopping cart.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, there was just so much clever and creative stuff, you know, that I came up with, and you helped a little bit.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
I remember, didn't you punch me in the face with a garbage can, and I fell back, and the shopping cart landed on top of me?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You took the garbage can and you just punched me in the face with it.
Well, here's the thing: is everybody always does it from the side of the can.
Yeah.
And nobody does it from the bottom. So, and people think the bottom is a lot harder, but it's not much harder. And so, when I hit you with the bottom, people think it hurts more.
Yeah, well, it didn't tickle, but I mean, it was funny. He's like, he just punched me in the face with a garbage can.
I know, that was great. I forgot that you fell underneath the shopping cart.
Yeah, and those shopping carts. You know, he's like, hey, just pick up the shopping cart and throw it in the ring. And then, like,
well, originally I was going to pick the shopping cart up and throw it and hit you with it. And I was like, I couldn't get the thing up. I was like, because it was so clumsy and awkward and heavy. They're fucking heavy.
Yeah. Right.
But it's not just the heaviness. They're really clumsy and awkward. And I was like, and then I was like, forget it. And you're like, well, let me try. And I'm like, you can't do it. And you went right up. And I was like, motherfucker.
Yeah, no, but and then it was funny because we had a kitchen sink too, so even the kitchen sink was
got it right, exactly.
Right, and I remember in the back we were talking, and there was a coat hanger on the edge. We were laughing and joking. How that match came off, I don't know, but we basically laughed and joked most of the time. And then,
well, you know what it was we started like 4 hours early, so we had plenty of time to come up with it.
Right. I remember you'd come to me like, hey, you want to iron this thing out, or you want to, yeah. And then we just start laughing and joking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're having fun, that's when you're most creative, I find, you know.
Right. And the pressure's off, and you know, you can really think and just go over stuff. And but what about that car ride with you and Hack and Guido, or you want to get into that or no?
Yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah, so Rhino came to ECW, and it was his first trip, and his first time. He's brand new in the territory, and so he wanted to ride with us, and so he said he would drive, I guess, and so he got an SUV, and he'd never ridden with us before, me and the Sandman, and which, you know, we're both menaces to society, and so we the Sandman. I'm in the front seat next to Rhino. Sandman's behind me. Bill Alfonso was next to him, and little Guido was in the way back, and in the back seat. And so we stopped at a gas station, and that's when I was I don't like to glorify this, but I was shooting up back then Oxycontins, which let me say that if you have an addiction issue, get help. Like I have a lot of fun stories about it, but there's a lot of tragedy involved in it that I don't talk about. That was just as bad, and a lot of suckiness to it. And
Right.
it ended up being more of a not worth all the fun I had. Was more outweighed by all the unfun I had because of it. So I'm not recommending it, and then if you do have addiction issues, get help. I mean, that's what I did.
Yeah.
I got help.
Right.
And that's how I got clean. But this is a funny story. It's not even a funny story. It's only funny because it's ridiculous, but
And that
Sandman
we
could have
survived
died.
through this.
Yeah,
Right.
because Sandman could have died,
Right.
but good.
He
So I
actually
go in the
did.
bathroom to shoot up, and so he's like, I want to shoot up too. And I'm like, yeah, you can't handle the dose I'm taking because, you need a smaller dose because I've been doing it for a little while, for a couple months. So I've built up an addiction, tolerance. And he's like, no. So he shoots up the same amount, and then we get back in the car, and all of a sudden we're driving, and Fonzie goes, hey, bet it up, Daddy. Sandman's lips are turning blue. So Sandman's lips are turning blue. So we pull over and get off the highway, and we call the 911.
Right.
And they tell us to meet him at a gas station off to like the next exit, and so they can revive him, bring him back to life. And so we pull off and get off the exit, and we stop at a hotel, and we throw all the bags out because it had all the drugs in it. And little Guido went flying out over as he shuffled the bags out, his big feet got trapped, and he flew out on top of the bags and took a face plant on the cement in front of the hotel. And then we drive across the street to meet the paramedics. And then Sandman claims they stuck a syringe in his heart full of adrenaline, which they did not do, but it's a good embellishment. So, and they revived him. They revived him, and then his wife was so mad at me for letting him get, almost ODing. It wasn't my fault.
Right. Well, no, just to go back and cover a couple things, like, obviously you said if you have a problem, get help, but you were always the type that would measure your dosage out. I remember you talking to me about this, I think after you went and got cleaned up, and it was shortly after that, I remember. But you would always calculate, and you were very careful on certain things, as careful as you could possibly be. And then the road wasn't all full of that stuff, but
yeah, I mean, whenever you hear the stories, you feel people think that's all there were great stories, but there's lots of nights of just depression and sadness and boredom and
Right.
annoyances and just boring travel. But if you have adventures, if you live the life that you want to have adventures, you're gonna have adventures, but there's gonna be downsides. But the downsides aren't fun to talk about. Nobody wants to hear about my constipation.
Right.
That was the worst part about the opiates, was the constipation. I was like, I was lucky if I went to the bathroom 3 times a week.
Right.
My bowels are still screwed up because of that. Like literally, my bowels are like, I was averaging like 3-4 times a week, going to 3-4 times a week for the last 20 years, which is just terrible. I mean, it's no fun being constipated. That's just one of the minor problems with it, let alone all the others, but that's a big enough problem on its own.
Right. So, but no, another thing I wanted to touch on this, and it's something you said. I mean, you've told me a lot of stuff, with the wrestling business that I've passed on, like promos and, listen to a song, read the lyrics, and then you can take lyrics and put it in a promo. And I tell kids to this day, and I give you the credit. But the next morning,
I can't take credit for that, but thank you.
But you told me that, and I,
Right.
and that's where I learned it from, and and
Right.
I've done.
Well, here's the thing: is what the good thing about song lyrics are. If the fans recognize where they came from, instead of being looked as a plagiarist, they'll be like, "I know that song."
Right.
And if they hadn't heard that song, then they're like, "Wow, that's a really cool saying." So either way, you win. You don't get it.
Yeah.
Either way, you're not a plagiarist.
Right. Right. And if they hear it from you first, and then they hear a song, it's like, wow, they stole that from Raven. They stole
Exactly.
that from Rhino. But no, the very next day, because we followed Sandman to the hospital that night, and I think Gary, the only reason why they wanted me to drive with them is because I never drank. So they're like,
Yeah, we
we'll
needed a
get
sober driver.
we'll get this greenhorn to drive us. So,
You're that friend.
the next day, Sandman comes. We go, okay, we're staying at this hotel. We, they got him awake and all that stuff, and we seen him. He was all secure. They go, we're gonna keep him, overnight. And then if we wouldn't have went and stopped at that exit, we would have been like 17 miles out, and he would have died. So that's what they told us. But he came to the hotel and he asked for the keys because he wanted to get a drink out of the car. So Raven, you said, Hack, you almost died last night. I don't think you need to drink. And he goes, oh, you're one to talk. Not necessarily, but to live the clean life he was referring to. And you said, Hack, you got a family to go home to. Me, I go home to nobody at that point in your life.
Right.
You go, if something happens to me, nobody's relying on me. You got a family at home. And I'm like, wow, that's a true friend, and that's someone that I'm honestly.
I really was a true friend. How about that?
Right. So
I totally forgot I said all that. I had no recollection of that until you just said it.
Right. No, I exactly. That's what you said. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So, but yeah, we got to get wrapping this thing up shortly. Gary, do you want to wind it down?
About that story, I'm just glad everybody ended up okay. And
oh, you don't care, Gary. You don't give a fuck.
I'm the most
caring person you'll ever meet.
You full of shit, motherfucker.
Now that I understand emails, I'm good. I mean,
what's on your hat?
Skeletor.
Skeletor? You
Yeah.
mean Mortis?
That too.
Mortis looked like Skeletor, but he had different color scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta get you up here. We're gonna start running some shows again. Definitely do a seminar and whatever you want to do. And then definitely we got to get you back to talk about your comic books, Raven. As far as how many comics did you write?
I only wrote the one. I co-wrote the one. It's a Spider-Man comic, but
my favorite.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. Actually, what did you say before the comic books about? Running for. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere until COVID, gets cleared up because well, I got like a lot of wrestlers are still on the road because you got to earn money, but I'm like I got 2 pre-existing conditions. I've had a heart attack and I got type 2 diabetes, so I'm not in any rush to go out and get COVID. So
yeah. Well, no, obviously after all that.
But if you're trying to kill me, you're just trying to kill me and get me out there sooner, you bastard.
No. After all that stuff's cleared up, we definitely, you got a big fan base around the world, but you definitely have a big fan base here in Detroit. And then, no, when everything clears up, that's what I mean. And plus, people to learn. I mean, I learned a ton from you, and especially if you do seminars or whatever.
Well, what I loved about you was your work looked so believable. Like you're one of the, but you're also super, like for a big guy, you move like a lightweight, which I loved. Like I loved working with you. You're one of my favorite people to work with. I'd put you in my top 500.
You made it, kid.
No, I put you in my top 10. I put you in my top 10. But no, I would. I'd put you in my top 10 of favorite people to work with because it's so easy to move you. Like most big guys, you got to push them and shove them, and when you shoot them off, you have to shoot them off. They don't take all. It's an illusion. They're supposed to just make the motion that you're shooting the guy off, and the guy takes off running on his own. It's not you, actually pushing them, and you'd be surprised. Like you work with a lot of big guys because you're a bigger guy. They're the worst to work with, aren't they?
Oh, terrible. Or horrible. They're just over muscling and just it throws you off. Yeah, it makes it rough.
Yeah.
So it's like
and so I loved working with you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed and loved working with you too. It was just a lot of fun, and plus when you're working with someone, I was just coming up. When you're working with someone that's really over, it just makes it a lot easier. So, but anyways,
I don't like working with Gary though. He's terrible.
I like working with you guys too. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
You're a real piece of crap.
Thanks for having me, guys. We got to take off. You want anything you want to say about where you can find your social media, anything like that, Raven?
Yeah, I only really go on Twitter. It's at the Raven Effect, and that's pretty much it. Or if you want to go to cameo.com and go to get me to cut a video, I'll break up with your girlfriend for you. I'll tell your mom her feet smell. You know, whatever you need me to tell. You know, cameo.com.
Right.
And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Now, real quick before
Oh,
we
if
leave.
you, I'm selling also. I sell like, I got so much crap in my house. I got 30,000 comics. Like that's ridiculous. I got 30,000 comics. I got like 200 comic book statues. I got all this crap. So I'm putting some on eBay. But so if you're interested, I have an eBay. I don't have an eBay store. I have this lady who's a seller who's got like 100% record, and she's selling my shit for me. So there's not a lot on there yet, but there'll be more. But just go to find it. Just go to Google AskDana.com, DANNA, 2 N's, AskDana.com, and then when you get to her site, just type in Raven, and it'll bring up my shit. And buy my shit. Don't buy her shit. I'm
Buy Raven's shit.
I'm kidding.
We got to wrap it up. Time is over. Appreciate your wisdom. Appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you putting Terry in his place. And next week, Ian Mahoney from The Walking Dead. And we'll hope to see you guys all soon. Thank you so much.
What's this guy's name again?
This
Gary.
guy. Me?
Gary.
Gary.
Yeah, Gary.
Yeah, that's a terrible name.
Thank you. I have a long line of terrible names in the family.
Outstanding. I don't care.
It was great.
I'll see you, Rhino. Good talking to you, man. I'll see you.
Awesome.
Oh, look at my shirt. Look at my shirt. Hold on.
Pew pew. Pew pew. Love it.
Best shirt ever.
Best
Right.
shirt.